Hey everybody, how you doing? And welcome to International Men's Day. Yes, it's that time of the year again when we focus on men's mental health. We, of course, focus on everybody's mental health, but today it's about the blokes. And I just want to share with you some interesting data that's just come to hand. And sorry, I've got this on my iPad, but it is something that is fairly, I guess, the latest information, the latest data. And one of the main reasons why we do this, not just the fact that we care, because we do care. It's why we do Are You OK Day, International Women's Day, and so on as well. But here's some of the latest facts that you should be aware of. The #1 leader or killer of men in Australia under 55 is suicide through mental health. Suicide kills 7 men a day, and 3 out of 4 suicides are men. These things are really stark statistics that say we need to look after one another, we need to reach out to one another. We've got people here today that's going to have some really fantastic conversations around that, and most of all, look after one another. So today, thank you for joining us for International Men's Day. I'm not going to hang around too long, and you don't want to listen to me. You want to listen to the people who are going to speak. So let's get into it, and I'll hand over to our MC, Mark from Western Australia, our state manager there. Go for it, Mark. Over to you.
G'day, Pete. Thanks very much, mate. And welcome everybody to our International Men's Day event online today. Now, I was having a bit of a look into our event today, wanting to just give a little bit more of a perspective on things. Obviously, we're going to be talking about a lot of mental health things, but I saw something that was quite interesting, and it was about a spanner in the works. Now, a spanner in the works is being developed with the International Men's Shed, the Men's Shed Australia and Healthy Male. Now, it uses mechanical references to get guys thinking about their body, because sometimes we're a bit of a simpleton and we need things that we're aware of. Now, these hands have never really been inside of a car, so I can't speak for myself on this, but a lot of guys do like their cars. So people thinking, when was your last service? And, thinking about their body. Now, as you can see, there's a little graphic on there, and it's a human body, but it's got wheels as well. Now, I guess our wheels are our legs, but anyway. Now, firstly, there's going to be computer issues. So that's our head. Now, there's obviously things going to be like mental health issues, but it's also things like dental checks, eye checks, alcohol consumption, gambling and recreational drug use. These are all things that are affecting blokes every single day of the week. So always big things to remind. Next up, we've got our body panel. So what goes around our torso? These are things like lung, heart, skin health. Always got to make sure your skin's checked all the time there, guys. Smoking, diabetes, and gut troubles as well. Now we've got the drive shaft. There's no pun intended there, guys. This is all to do with our reproductive and sexual health. So checking the undercarriage and getting your prostate checked when the time comes as well. And then we've got the general service. So the fuel that we put into our bodies with healthy eating. Then we've got things like relationships, fitness, sleeping problems. I'm certainly not the best sleeper, so it's always good to make sure that you're checking these things all the time. And the stats are, if you don't get enough sleep, it's not good for your body, and it's not good for your mental health as well. Then we've finally got DIY. We've got regular checks, and obviously they're going to be all different with different age groups. I just had my annual blood test yesterday, actually, and I'm sure that will come back saying my cholesterol is too high, like it normally does. But keep an eye on those things at all the time. Now, I hope that gets everyone thinking, but we'll get going with our session for today. Now, in the spirit of reconciliation, the FBAA acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Now, I'd like to thank our sponsors for making this day possible. Our confidential counselling program sponsor Suncorp, and to our content providers Navagate Biz, NextGen.net, Saving Brothers, and our other presenters for giving up your time and your continued support within the industry. Now, if you haven't already, we also encourage you to download the digital brochure for today's 2021 International Men's Day. It's from the website, or it's on the webinars page, and it's also in the chat box for Zoom. It's got information on us, the speakers, and also further resources to assist you within the mental health and wellness space. There are 2 CPDs allocated, so please tune in for the whole session to ensure your attendance is marked. You'll also be able to watch this back on our YouTube channel, so there will be details of our YouTube channel sent post the session as well, and there's loads of other things that we have recorded on there that you can gain CPDs for as well. we've just launched our FBAA podcast series too. Now, you can follow us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify now by searching FBAA and hitting the follow us button, or via the FBAA website on the news page. There is a Dads for Kids Fatherhood Foundation, which is the global driving force and coordinating charity for IMD. If you wish to donate, you can via the link in the IMD digital brochures resources page, or it will be on the follow-up email that will be sent after the event. As you can see, the agenda is up on the screen right now. It is also in the chat function. So we'll just run through that very quickly. We've got Keep 5 Alive with Saving Brothers founder Philip Robson up first. Then we've got conversation around embracing versus changing with Alex Brujak and the nextgen.net head of broker partnerships, Renee Blithen. After that, we've got Rest, Reflect and Reset with Assure on behalf of CCP sponsor Suncorp, Nicolette Spicer. And we've got positive male role models, build better communities with Navagate Biz CEO Nick Barnstall. Then next up, we've got Challenges for Men with FBAA MD, my boss, Peter White, Alex Brujak, Navagate Biz CEO Nick Barnstall, nextgen.net head of broker partnerships, Renee Blithen, and Saving Brothers founder, Philip Robertson. And then we will wrap up after that. Now, if you do wish to ask any questions, please put them into the chat box, and then we'll have the presenters available to answer them throughout the sessions. Now, I'd like to introduce Philip Robertson, who is the founder of Saving Brothers, and will be outlining the Keep 5 Alive initiative. Now, Philip is the founder of Saving Brothers, a global brotherhood that cares for every brother's physical, mental, and financial health. I'll hand over to Philip to elaborate further and advise how you can be part of this great initiative. G'day, Philip.
G'day there, Mark. And g'day, brothers out there. And I acknowledge the ladies, of course, but today is International Men's Day. So, brothers, welcome. And to Peter White, who is one of our brothers and has just been an absolute wonderful supporter of Saving Brothers since I started this. Those really briefly that don't know me, I'm actually an ex-mortgage broker. I was a broker for 19 years and also a mortgage manager, and I've certainly seen the good, the bad and the ugly. And today what I wanted to share with you is an insight around what we created. And in fact, it's called Keep 5 Alive. And I'm going to share my screen with you. So as you can see here on the screen, Keep 5 Alive is really about 5 simple steps. And what I was already thrilled about was a couple of Mark's analogies around the car and getting your servicing. And congratulations also to you, Mark, for getting your bloods done yesterday, because that for us at Saving Brothers is in fact one of the cornerstones. The 2 chaps in the photograph are in fact a couple of brothers of mine, Ross Lawrenson on the left and on my right, Rod Stelling, who are mates of Pete's as well, very familiar to the mortgage space. They are brokers themselves. So the whole concept around Keep 5 Alive is really about empowering men to take responsibility for themselves and their lives. And in fact, really, as one of our doctors, Dr. Rebecca McGowan said, it's about helping men, in effect, reclaim the sovereignty over their health. And for us at Saving Brothers, that's the physical health and also your mental health. Saving Brothers has 3 key pillars around health, self, and wealth. Our website is savingbrothers.com. And if you go to the About page in the drop-down box, you'll see all about this stuff around Keep 5 Alive. It's really simple. I think when you complicate things for men, they don't do them. And let's face it, all of us, men and women, our lives are extremely busy. So number 1 on the Keep 5 Alive is it's important every day to check in with yourself. And what we do is we always ask ourselves how we feel about ourselves today, because we all have our own self-talk. We ask that question, how am I feeling out of 10? How do I feel about me today? It's not selfish to take care of yourself. You need to look after yourself in order to be the best version of yourself in order to help others as well. The importance of exercise cannot be underestimated. In fact, 5 times a week of just 30 minutes has been proven to replace 1 antidepressant tablet per day. It's incredible. And for me, getting out in nature, part of my routine, apart from going to the gym 3 times a week, is I walk every morning and listening to the birds and nature, not always listening to podcasts. It's a great time to gather your thoughts. So guys, if you're stuck on the couch, get off your bum and get out the front door. Really importantly, and Mark, again, I'm going to say hats off to you, brother, is about going to see a doctor. You see, the thing about women is they have pap smears and mammograms. They don't miss. They just go. Us guys, we tend to go when our leg's about to fall off. So rather than wait for something to blow up, and you use the car analogy, it's like me. I blew up the engine in a car once. I had a beautiful sports car when I was 19, an Italian Lancia, driving along thinking I was a rock star, didn't realise there was a leak in the oil sump, and before I knew it, I had blown up the engine. And that's what happens. We can go to gym, we can fix our skin, look amazing on the outside, but it's what's going on inside. And sleep is one of the key things that Mark mentioned. And in fact, available to the FBAA is our ebook on health, self and wealth. And in fact, sleep is one of the most important cornerstones around taking care of yourself. If you're sleep deprived, it has so many adverse effects, including Alzheimer's and cardiac issues. So really important to be proactive and get your bloods done every year so that you can have issues sorted out before they become massive problems. The fourth thing is gratitude. Folks, we're all busy. We've all got stuff going on, but let's take time to appreciate the good things. And finally, the most important one, which I spoke to Nicolette off air about before, is check in with mates. We're very good as men to deflect and bury our feelings. So if you ask a bloke how you're going, most blokes say, yeah, good, not bad, but they don't really share. So we're all about asking brothers, hey brother, how's your day going out of 10? And that's crucial. Some guys might be flying, but others, when you actually ask them and get them to commit to a score, I can promise you, friends, I've had brothers around the world say, you know what, I'm only a 1 or a 2. And here's the quick thing. You don't have to solve their problem. You just have to attentively listen. So you'd come back with the question, well, hey, brother, tell me what's going on for you. Effectively, you're giving them a safe space to step into. And let me tell you, I know that question has saved some men's lives who are thinking about taking their own life. So that's my allotted time. If you'd like to learn more about Saving Brothers, go to the website. We're also in the resources page, and we've put together a special offer for FBAA members and friends at a 50% discount on joining Saving Brothers. We have a membership with courses and mentorship. Mark, I'm going to hand back to you because that's my allotted time. And thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful International Men's Day.
Thanks, Phil. That was great. Look, and I think the good thing with the bloods as well, you can actually see them going up and down. Well, things should be going up, some things should be going down. Hopefully they're in the right trajectory. So it's a good way of keeping score on things as well. And well, I don't know what my score is going to be just yet. We'll find out in a couple of days next week. But it's good to keep an eye on things. And look, to be honest, I'm 40 next year, and I wouldn't say it's scaring the shit out of me just yet. But I'm sure in late January next year, I might take a little bit of time and go, oh, look, I'm 40. So,
well, just really quickly, Mark, it's worth doing because at 47, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. If I hadn't have got my bloods from age 40 onward, I wouldn't be here. I had a lot of cancer. So that's another story, but there you go. It's worth doing, brothers. Excellent.
Good stuff. Thanks, Phil. Thanks very much, mate. Okay, now, next up, we're lucky to have Alex and Renee. Now, Renee is the head of broker partnerships at nextgen.net. And they're going to be joining us as industry role models to delve into embracing versus changing. A bit of a tongue twist. They're all tending to be tongue twisters today. It's fantastic. Thanks very much for the heads up on those ones, guys. But look, over to you guys.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. Hey, Renee. How you going?
Hey, Alex. Thank you. And thanks, Mark. Thanks, Peter. And thanks, Phil. So honoured to be here with everyone today.
Yeah, totally agree. Happy International Men's Day to everyone there in the FBAA office as well as online.
Thank you.
So did you want to open up, Renee?
Absolutely. So I just want to give a bit of context to the session that Alex and I are going to run through today. What we want to do is have a conversation, and we would love to invite you to either comment or post some questions in the chat as we go through the range of topics that we'd like to talk about. And the one thing that we really want to do today is share our own experience. I'm going to attempt to draw out as much as I can from Alex about his experience because it is International Men's Day, and I feel quite honoured to be here. And I hope through the course of our discussion that it just leaves you with some things to think about and gives you potentially a different perspective or an insight to a different perspective that you could perhaps look at if it's of interest to you. So we decided to go with the theme of embracing versus changing, because both of us felt that there's so much information about the way that each of us needs to change, whether it's men, women, or other genders. It's all about who you might need to change to be. And we wanted to take a different approach, which was a softer approach around what can you actually embrace, what can you look to embrace, and both of our experiences in that. So that's a little bit of context to the session. Did you want to add anything to that, Alex?
That was well summarised. So I think we're hopefully you'll all enjoy this session. I just saw a chat come through asking if this was live, and absolutely 100% this is live. If you watch on for the next 20 minutes or so, you'll know why, because I'm sure Renee and I will be keeping it very real.
Yeah.
It's not rehearsed whatsoever. We've got some bullet points that we're working through, but the rest is very much going to be about what I think, what I feel, and as much about what Renee thinks and feels, and drawing on both of our experiences. So just on that point, Renee, we had the pleasure of co-presenting on International Women's Day, and I was feeling a little bit uncomfortable the first time I did it, being a man presenting on International Women's Day. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I would totally relate to that discomfort at this point. Happily uncomfortable, but I can say that today is about positive role models for men and talking about men's health and well-being, and also the significant issues that are impacting men. And whilst it feels like I'm absolutely not an expert, however, I am surrounded by men in my life, and that is my father, my brothers, my partner, and a lot of the people that I work with in my industry are male gender. So I think hopefully through that, there's something that might be of use in terms of a perspective. My aim today, though, is to draw out as much as I can from Alex, because I think that's where the gold is. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you're here, Renee. And I think as much as it is about, brothers helping brothers, we need the sisters in our lives to be understanding what we're going through and our challenges as much as our successes. So, yeah, I'm really glad you're here.
Yeah, thank you. Now, we wanted to start off with a story, actually. And when Alex and I were preparing for this session, we talked about a lot of different things. And one of the things that I heard was that the best thing in this sort of discussion is to share other people's stories. And to get that started, what I'm going to do is ask Alex some questions about a particular book that he read, which forms part of the basis for a lot of our conversation. And then we're going to share some research that we've completed to help us delve out that a little bit further. So, Alex, I understand that you read a book some time ago, and that was a bit of a changing moment for you, in that you looked at change in a different way. And I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the book you read, and just some initial thoughts on why you chose to read it and what it left you with.
Yeah, thanks, Renee. I've actually referred to this book on International Women's Day as well, and I think it serves well no matter what you're talking about, really. And the book is written by Catherine Fox. It's called Stop Fixing Women, and as much as it is about, the book is absolutely written by a female, but aimed towards men. But I think females could equally read that and get as much out of it. But I was talking to an old colleague and friend of mine who told me about this book, and it's really aimed at the workplace and how we as men can view different challenges in a different light, and rather look at the design as opposed to solving the problem, and going to the root cause. And I think we've seen some of that thinking really come to life through the pandemic. And we'll talk a bit more about that, but something that's highlighted been highlighted through the pandemic is that flexibility in the workplace is not a myth, and that's absolutely been debunked. The ability to allow people to work from home, work varying hours to get the job done, is something that is possible, and we've seen that happen through the workplace where women have had challenges. And I'm talking about women for a second. And as men, we've always been the majority, especially as you look at senior leadership executives, and we've always wondered, how do we fix this? And we put metrics around it. Well, we want more, and that's what we do. We're numbers, we're focused, like we need to work out how to solve this problem. And what this book does is it highlights that you can actually just change the way you think about it, as opposed to just looking to solve the problem. And what that has done for me is it's actually rewired my brain. And, you know, we talk about embracing versus changing. I've started to stop changing myself. I've started to stop worrying a little bit less, not all the time, about what I say, how it comes out. I have really good intent, but some of the challenges as men we have in speaking up, especially in the workplace, is there's a fear of retribution, of persecution, of like just accidentally saying something and the words are wrong, but the intent might be good, but of course it blows up. So then that can often lead to a lack of action or inaction, even though intent is good. And it all becomes too hard. And if it's too hard, Philip talked about it before. It's like the car. If it's too difficult, we let it go by the wayside. So then we focus on something that we can influence or we can change. So this really does break into about 6 different parts, how you can think differently, view things differently, and it's helped me apply that sort of method to a lot of different aspects of life. And I'd say my life's perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not perfect, so I'll never be perfect, but it's given me a lot of reprieve to help understand where I can be better and where I am actually doing reasonably well.
Thank you. There's a lot in that to listen to, but one thing I just wanted to ask you about is when you were first telling me about this, what I heard from you was that this change of perspective or kind of view of a different perspective lifted a burden, lifted a weight off your shoulders about that fixed kind of view you might have had as to all this work that you might have needed to do to be able to accommodate and fit this world. And I want to just ask you a little bit more about that feeling, because I think that's really important to discuss, because often how we feel will drive how we communicate and the energy that someone else picks up on, and that can often make a difference to a conversation. And if we can come from a lighter view with ourselves, that can often be the changing point, and we don't actually need to do too much different than that. So can you talk to me a little bit about how you actually felt with that sort of lifted burden and lifted weight?
Yeah, so it's funny, it wasn't until, like, I remember the first time Pete asked me to present on International Women's Day. I'm like, what, is it a stitch up, right? Like, really? And 1,000 thoughts went through my head around, and largely all negative, right? Like, it's like, what was the risk going to be? How it was going to be perceived? Do women really want to hear from me? Like, who am I? Am I an expert? No. Like, where do I fall into this space? But I'm really passionate about making a difference, like really making a difference, not just talking about stuff. So I love to be very hands-on. And one thing that and it's not just a book, right? Like, the book's not you know, just once or the solution. What it's done is, by changing the way I think, I do have a voice, and everyone does. And hopefully by people who, you know, listen to here today, to me, you, and all the other panelists, it's about communication. It's something that guys typically struggle with. We talk a lot, but it's only about everything else other than, you know, health, well-being, you know, mental health, all that sort of stuff. We generally leave that by the wayside. But the burden that was lifted off me when I started to think about things differently was I stopped trying to be better. And because I think I'm okay. Now, I'm not saying I don't want to be better. That's probably came out the wrong way. Hence, this is live, right? It's not scripted. We always aim to be better, but it's about understanding that I'm okay right now, and there are areas in my life that can be improved. And the only way I can do that is by being in a safe place and with safe people, where I can speak my mind and not have any fear of retribution. I typically, and as most men do, I'm actually not fussed on people empathizing with me. There's a difference between empathy. It gets confused a lot between empathy and compassion. You can be compassionate, but empathy is actually, it can be quite dangerous if not used well. And typically men are not as great at empathy as women are. Women are traditionally a lot better at empathy. But unless you've walked in my shoes or experienced something I've experienced, I really find it hard to connect with that person. And that's where, you know, Philip Robinson's initiative is about brothers coming together. And if you can share stories and someone else has gone through what you've gone through, that is so powerful for men to connect. And I think today is really about not just celebrating men and acknowledging some of the fantastic stuff we've done, and we've made a lot of progress, and we're not there yet, but also some of the real big challenges that, you know, Pete highlighted around suicide and health, and you know, Mark's leading the way with showcasing checking his bloods, which is awesome. But the theme today is about how we can improve the healthy relations between men and women in the workplace, and genders more broadly. So to sort of gauge that, we did a survey this week, Renee.
We did. It was fun, and thank you to everyone who took the time to read and respond. And we've got some great information that we want to share with you. And the reason that we completed the survey is Alex and I wanted to make sure that anything that we thought was relevant was also going to hit the point and be of relevance to our audience. So we're really hoping that this resonates with you. And we also have a bit of a story which plays to the day around the construction of the actual survey and the difference between my view compared to Alex's view, and just even bringing that together in terms of words used, the amount of information. So to Phil's point in his presentation around keep it simple, don't make it too complex. Got that message loud and clear. So just to give you a bit of headline to that, I'd written quite a long story to introduce the survey, way too many paragraphs, and I'd sent it to Alex, and I had my fiance check it, and he's like, nah, too long, you've lost me after word 3, cut here, take out the word feel, take this out. And I was just like, but that's the story. How are they going to know what I want to ask? They don't understand the whole picture. And I didn't need all those words, apparently. You just need to be straight and to the point. So we worked through that to get to a point where we came up with a question that we thought was going to be straight and deliver some answers that we could talk about today. So we'll show you now what that question was. And the question was, because we're talking about better relations between men and women, and so we wanted to understand what's the biggest impediment to healthy relations between genders in your workplace. And we had 4 responses that we tabled, and both Alex and I posted it separately, and that was also part of the research, was to see if we got a different interaction. Now, what we're going to show you first, I think, is Alex's response.
No, I've switched it.
Okay, so
show it yours first.
So we're going to go to my response first, and 3,600 views, 38 votes, and this was our. So we had options of poor listening, making assumptions, appearance, and an imbalanced gender ratio as the choices to what people saw as the biggest impediment to healthy relations between genders. Now, we did have quite a similar sort of viewing and a similar response rate. What was different was the engagement. So with my survey, I had about 5 or 6 people, mostly men, engage with me around providing some context to their answer or a different answer. And Alex, your responses?
Yep. So I had, no comments at all. What was interesting is, majority females participated in my survey, and I had a couple of people private message me through LinkedIn. I don't know what to read into that, and that's where some of this, to really unpack it, would need to. Right now, I'm left with making assumptions, which everyone is saying that is the biggest impediment, right? But what was also interesting is I had only one person tick the appearance box. I don't know if I shared this with you, Renee, but do you want to guess if that was a male or a female?
I will take a punt, and I'm going to go with female.
Yeah, so again, I could make a lot of assumptions based on, you had 0, say, appearance. I had 1.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting to see how that imbalance happens, and how the same question, same survey asked from myself or yourself, how you attracted more males to participate, and I attracted more women to participate. But it really does show the power, in my view, of us working together towards common goals, right? And fixing.
Absolutely. So we want to unpack the making assumptions piece, which has got quite a few kind of layers to it, and we're just going to have a bit of a conversation about that. So some other comments that we had was some people felt it was about having conscious and unconscious bias, communication, and those all play to, well, I think they play into that making assumptions piece. Alex, did you want to share anything on that?
Yeah, when we were preparing we were talking earlier this week, Renee, and we're informing these questions. And I've got to say, I just want to highlight how difficult it was to, like, awesome idea, but you'd come up with something, and I'm like, hang on, is this about men or is this about women? And really, it's about both. There's no right or wrong answer, although there was a couple of wrong ones in there, I've got to say. But anyway. You shared an interesting insight with me earlier this week about some of the assumptions you'd made about some of the male colleagues you work with. And through the pandemic, with everyone working from home, you can see I'm at home, this is my study. You got some interesting insights and had to adjust some of the assumptions you'd made about some of your male colleagues.
Yeah. Absolutely.
By what you observed being in their home, so to speak.
Yeah, look, happy to share that. And I'm sure that that's been a lot of people's experience, that this Zoom type environment, I think one of the great things that's come out of the pandemic and the forced kind of lockdown environment is that I feel like people in general, not just men or women, but people have actually been able to be more real with their life and who they are. And what I mean by that is, I'm sure you've all seen some interesting surroundings and some interesting interaction when you've been online in a video meeting. And what I can tell you is, for the people that I work with, I now know so much more about all of the people that I work with compared to pre that, because I got to see them at home needing to leave to do something with their kids, or their kids popping in to ask a question in that struggle for homeschooling. And what was interesting to me when I was sharing this with Alex was that I feel like I take an approach of seeing people as just people. I don't feel like I look at a gender kind of bias, but I didn't ever really wonder about the guys that I worked with in terms of their family sort of commitment and environment, because I don't know, I just didn't. Whereas that is often a question because of the easier way that I feel I can relate to a female, because I am one, and yet they are and have revealed themselves to be the same as me in terms of being human, having the same struggles through the COVID environment of homeschooling, managing a heavy work schedule, managing a household, and the difficulties that came with that. And where I've landed is that we've got so much more in common than we do that actually separates us.
And that's so powerful, and I think there's a lot of good we can take out of what is a devastating pandemic. And I just hope as we come into this post-pandemic world, we don't rush to just return back to that pre-pandemic world where flexibility wasn't really a thing, where these assumptions are still existent. And I think what that highlights is typically men are terrible communicators, especially as it relates to personal stuff. So in the workplace, they're not talking about their home or their family life, but you know, nothing forces their hand when they're doing a live Zoom from home and a baby runs into the room, wants to see daddy, or you know, something like that. That really showcases that humanistic element of males that we typically, you know, the bravado, whatever it might be, you know, prevents us from sharing in the workplace. So I thought that was really interesting. So thanks for sharing that. I also wanted to, I shared with you this morning a conversation I had with my wife and children last night at dinner. And we were talking about what's happening today and over the weekend. And I shared that I was presenting the FBAA International Men's Day, and the kids talked about the fact that one of my kids is doing an event at school for White Ribbon Day, which is also today. And the fact that I said it was International Men's Day today, we had a bit of a, it's fair to say, quite a topical debate over the dinner table as to whether it's appropriate to be International Men's Day on the same day that it is White Ribbon Day, where we're really trying to address domestic violence and what that means. And we're talking about whether there's irony in that. And
Yep.
so what were your thoughts on that, Renee?
Yeah, so what I need to own up to is that I didn't know a lot about International Men's Day until preparing for today. And in that research, one of the startling facts is that 2 out of 3 men die a violent death. And that can actually talk to domestic instances of domestic violence as well. And I was saying to Alex that had I been asked that question that he's just posed there around the day being shared, what would be my view? And I'm coming from a very different view on that because of the information that I now have, I'm more aware of, in that today is about positive role models and men's health and well-being. And I definitely see that it's a direct correlation that if we can work on those things, as well as the awareness around White Ribbon Day, we are going to start to see a change, even though we're talking about embracing, and a shift in the things that we need to be able to make an impact to those underlying issues. So that's my view there. What about you? How was the conversation at home?
Yeah, it was quite highly debated, and but my personal view is today is as good as any other day to celebrate men and acknowledge the challenges and successes men have in this world. And yes, domestic violence is a serious issue. One thing someone told me once is, Alex, even though you're not the problem, as a male, I still am part of the majority. So that little statement reminded me that whilst I'm not the minority, and if the majority of the male population is potentially a problem or have problems, then even though I may or may not have them myself, it's important to acknowledge, and that's why statistics are so important, data is so important, because it highlights to us where we can improve or where we can focus on, and by having initiatives such as Phil's initiatives and others, and even today, just talking more openly about it, hopefully helps not only deliver education, but help people understand that, you know, where I am in my life is either really good, or I can reach out to people and get some real help. And all there's forums like this where I can just listen, and that's okay too. So I think we didn't land collectively on whether it was right or wrong, but it is what it is, and it's something we can't change.
Yeah.
So rather than focusing on changing, goes back to our topic, it's more about embracing, right?
Yeah.
Let's not change it, let's just embrace it, and it is what it is. We want to address domestic violence. We want to celebrate and acknowledge men today, and the role women have in that place and in our place, and how we can look to build healthier relationships between us all.
Thank you. Firstly, I do want to just acknowledge that that's a really tough conversation to have around a dinner table. And I just want to acknowledge the fact that you as a family are having those sort of conversations, because that's what a change in conversation and people's attitudes and perspectives, those are the sort of things that will actually drive that. So firstly, I want to congratulate you on that. The second thing is that I'm sure in the conversations you have at home, you may not always have the answers. And what I often find in conversations I have with men sometimes is that they're looking to be able to provide the answer or the solution, and that can often prevent engaging deeply on an issue. And sometimes I just want to be heard, and I'm talking about me as a human being, not me as a female. I just want to be heard, seen, acknowledged. I don't necessarily need to have the answer. And I just wanted to ask you about, how do you handle those moments when you don't have the answer, but you're there to hold space with that person, whoever it might be in your life?
Yeah, it's fair to say I often don't have the answers. I've got a lot of life experience, I do, and some good, some not good. But one thing I've learned, especially around mateship and amongst, you know, the boys, if I could say that today, is it's about being there. A mate's always there, whether you know can help them fix something or not. It's about being available, being present, and that's often you know the best thing someone can do. And to your point, listening is actually something we're not great at typically. We are great at showing up though, so it's something we can improve on. I think I share my views quite openly, and I think opinions can matter, but as long as you're not driving your agenda. I think there's a difference between sharing your thoughts and sharing your experience versus having an agenda where you're trying to influence an outcome. That I think is dangerous and won't serve anyone well. So as long as it's coming from a place where you're trying to help, if not, you can guide people to you know, and we've got resources here today where we can guide people if they need that level of expert help, go there and just know how to be resourceful.
Thank you. And I think one thing that I've seen a lot of and heard from you in our conversations, some of the speakers have kind of talked to it a little bit already today, but in most of the discussion around International Men's Day, it's about keeping it real, raw, and keeping it simple and telling it how it is. And so I would invite you to do that. I'd invite you to listen to the people around you and have different conversations. Open yourself up to a different view. And we really hope that today has provided with you some different, potentially some interesting things to think about and some different thoughts to take into your life. Alex, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you summarised it well. I want to thank you for joining me today as well. It's always a pleasure. I appreciate you and all the other women participating in International Men's Day today. I think it's fantastic. I appreciate your honesty and vulnerability in showing up today to do it. And I think if we can have these sort of open communication between men and women more often, without the fear of any sort of, saying the wrong thing, I think it's going to take us a long way forward. So thank you very much.
Totally.
And thanks to the FBAA, of course.
Yeah, it's a fantastic initiative. Thank you. We're going to hand over back to Mark now and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee and Alex. Now, just a quick question that's come through, guys. So I don't know if you'll know the answer. Yep, speed back there, Renee. Now, do you know what the age groups were involved in the surveys that you had? Did you have any kind of stats on that by any chance?
No, we don't. We could work it out because we can see who participated in the survey, but I would say the vast majority would be somewhere between 30 and 50. Would you agree with that?
Yes, agree. Yep.
Cool. All right, we'll run with that, guys. Well, look, that was great, guys, and really good conversation that was had there. And as you said, Renee, with Alex, that's a pretty real conversation to have around the dinner table there. So good on there, mate. Thanks so much. Now, next up, we have Nicolette Spicer. Now, she works at Assure, the company who provides the counselling sessions on behalf of Suncorp for FBAA members and their immediate families. Now, Nicolette has a degree in sports science and over 20 years relationship management experience. Nicolette has been with Assure for 8 years and has partnered with many blue chip clients, including managing the wellbeing programs for many organisations. Now, Nicolette will provide some insights into rest, reflect and reset. So over to you, Nicolette.
Good on you, Mark. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. FBAA, congratulations on an awesome day. It makes me so happy to be, part of this amazing day where we're shining the light on men's mental health and well-being. And well done to the speakers who have already gone ahead. What wonderful role models you are. I'm going to spend 5 minutes absolutely talking about resting, reflecting, and restoring your energy, which is so important, and to be able to encourage people to admit that it is okay to not be okay. And I know as I say that, you're looking at me in my tropical theme, looking like Mrs. Howe from Gilligan's Island. When Mariah first sent through the invitation, I thought, you beauty, I'll end up looking like Ginger from Gilligan's Island. But you know what? Not to be the case. I've got a little presentation here that I'm going to share with you. So Suncorp, we've been partnering with them for many years. They are extending the opportunity for everybody, all FBAA members, to access free confidential counselling. And most of you will be thinking, oh, I don't need that. You know what? I'm going okay. But the importance of today is actually being able to self-reflect to see where you might be on our mental health continuum. And I loved that Philip indicated that when you ask someone how they're going and they respond with, oh yeah, brother, I'm flying, when in actual fact, you know that they are struggling. It is so important that we admit vulnerability if we are just not coping and not flourishing, not thriving and just not feeling it. If you think about the last 18 months, so many of us are stressed, overwhelmed, exhausted, and if I can be frank, absolutely knackered. So if that's you, or if that's someone that you care about, one of your mates, I want you to be able to reach out to them to ask them how they're going in language that works for you. Mate, I've noticed you don't seem yourself. How you going? Are you all right? Sometimes that shoulder to shoulder conversation is really helpful rather than face to face and addressing, with someone, oh, you look a bit stressed. What's happening for you? Being able to just, sit next to a mate, just shoulder to shoulder, so you don't have to have that confrontational face to face style is really, really helpful. So for everyone, I want you to work out where you might sit today on this mental health continuum. And you'll see it's just like the dashboard in the car. So I'm loving the analogy that Mark opened up with, just in terms of reflecting on your body parts as to how they are going compared to a car, because a car's easier to talk about than actual feelings and emotions and thoughts and different things. So down in the red zone, like in my car where I run it right, the petrol right down to the end, where it starts to chug to let me know that I need to fill it up again. How are you? Are you down at that end? Have you got nothing left to give? Are you totally exhausted? Are you not sleeping? Are you drinking too much grog? It's okay. All of us are on this mental health continuum, but it's so important to identify if we are struggling, because there's help available. We've got free confidential counselling, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. And lots of us can just modify a few lifestyle factors and just pull ourselves out of those dark times. Lots of us find ourselves in the middle of the continuum. We're just coping, crawling through to the festive season, really tired, maybe a little bit grouchy or grumpy, or making weak nutritional choices and possibly withdrawing from mates. There's signs that you probably need to invest in a little bit of self-care to really look out for yourself. Some of us will be up the other end in the blue zone, flourishing, killing it, looking amazing, looking the goods, exercising, drinking alcohol in moderation, drinking water, eating the right things, hanging out with people. Good for you. And I hope you can maintain it up at that end. That's superb, and that thrills me that people are up at that end. Today's session is all about shining the light on mental health, but providing people with the opportunity to invest in themselves and take some time for some self-care. And the first one is getting some good solid rest, making sure you're getting a good night's sleep. And Philip talked about this as well. The importance of sleep is key. Sometimes it's a really good idea to go to bed at the same time every night, to wake up early and maybe get cracking on a little bit of exercise. Each day, you need to make time to just detach, spend a little bit of maybe 20 minutes just reflecting and just trying to, cut yourself off from the worries of the work day. 20 minutes, a good night's sleep, and a little bit of recreation and a little bit of downtime. I mean, everybody's scheduled in the 2 hours for today. I want to make sure everyone's schedules in 20 minutes every single day for a little bit of relaxation time. Being able to reflect on how things are going for you, to honestly call it out. If you're struggling, you need to be able to identify those feelings. You need to be able to also identify what's going well for you, to have some feelings of gratitude, but just to be present, to know how you're going. Your body is going to give you signs and symptoms that you might be stressed. And it might be things like feeling crook in the guts, feeling short-tempered, not sleeping, all sorts of things. It's important that you are in tune with those messages, because it's ultimately up to you to reflect and then to be able to reset. And by resetting, I'm talking about things like obviously getting a good night's sleep, making sure you drink alcohol in moderation. And every time I speak on these awesome forums, I'm just hammering everyone about, your 2 standard drinks. And as we edge towards the party season, look, you know what? It is really hard because, oh yeah, I'll have another drink. Thank you. Have a few drinks, but make sure you have water or a mineral water in between each one. And do please look after yourselves. Making sure you increase your water levels, a couple of litres every single day, making time to breathe. The importance of just deep diaphragmatic breathing is paramount, actually, and it's being able to sit up and inhale so that you get all that oxygen throughout your body, and doing that as often as you can is really good idea. Your exercise, a little bit of huff and puff or weight work, or just again, as Philip has indicated, walking every day is awesome. You don't always have to go to the gym. You could just busy yourself with lifting some heavy things around the house. Staying connected with your mates. We found through our work at Assure with the 1,200 psychologists that work for us, loneliness has become an epidemic because so many people are isolated. So everyone on this call, I hope that over the weekend you ring a mate, reach out to them and ask them how they're going, and share how you're going as well. That conversation piece is key. Have a laugh. I love that today we all wore floral shirts, in celebration of it being tropical, but look for joy. Make time to have a laugh. Life is really serious, and unfortunately you hear so many sad stories about people just feeling a sense of hopelessness, and some people at the end of their tether. If that's you, or if it's someone you care about, let us help you with some free confidential counselling. Now, I could talk forever on all of this sort of stuff. A couple of other points: manage your news feed. If the news is distressing you, turn it off. If you're on your socials and it's all bad news, turn it off. Call someone who's going to drag you up and make you feel good about yourself. Spend time in nature. Take your shoes off and get busy with your feet on the earth. That is amazing. Be in awe of something in nature, like stars, stargazing, or just, go and hug a really big tree. But just being in touch with nature is superb. you've got the ability to have free confidential counselling with us. All you need to do is ring us on 1800 808 374. It's free, it's confidential. You can talk about anything that is bothering you, and you know, it's so good. You know, you take your car, if you blew the head gasket in your car, you take your car off to the mechanic. If you had a toothache and you're struggling, you go off and see the dentist. When it comes to your mental health, I want you to enlist the support of a professional, and we've got some absolute beauties on staff. You don't have to do all the heavy lifting alone. We're here for you. You're all in it together. I'm so proud to be part of today, and thanks for the opportunity to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicolette. Now, I love your outfit. Look, I put on some, I can't see them here, I put on some loud boardies on here, but it's unseasonably still cold here in Perth, and I'm now freezing my everything off. So, not the most ideal of costumes I've got on today, but that's okay. Well, look, thank you so much, Nicolette.
Thank you.
Cheers. See ya. Okay, now, next up, we have next speaker, Nick Barnstall from Navagate Biz. Now, Nick is the owner and director of 13 different companies, some of those self-founded. He now specialises in mentoring and building SME businesses to reach their full potential, and has been dubbed a superhero when it comes to launching and overhauling businesses. Nick is highly respected in his community and remains true to his character. Down to earth, cheeky, likeable and authentic. Find him mentoring and coaching business owners at navagatebiz.com. Now, over to you, Nick.
Thank you, Mark. Can you hear me okay?
You're coming through loud and clear, my friend.
So I just dropped in. I missed the memo on the shirts there, so apologies for not fitting in.
Oh, look, that's the cityscape. It's very important. Not quite tropical, but that's okay.
Hey, and I'd really like to acknowledge the FBAA. One, you know, I'm super grateful that I was invited to speak today, but acknowledge that the fact that that you're having, and I guess celebrating in some way, but certainly acknowledging the International Men's Day. You know, it's not something that we hear a lot about, and I must say before I was contacted by Mariah that I hadn't heard of it. So, you know, hey, great job FBAA, and thanks so much for having me here.
No worries. Thanks so much, Nick. Well, look, we'll get you to share your screen, and then we'll get you underway, my friend.
Okay.
Oh, this is a bit of a smart-ass comment that's come on here. Nick's head is certainly tropical, lots of sunshine. There we go. Very nice.
Yeah. I live in Queensland, and I've got pasty Irish heritage skin. So, you know, it is what it is. But maybe I'll look like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer in time for Christmas. let me just get my.
Is that Irish Kiwi blood as well? That can't be good.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of us in New Zealand. Hey, we all came from somewhere, right? Okay, there we go. Can we see that there?
Yep, you're all up, mate. I'll pass over to you then. Thanks very much.
Okay, great. Well, yeah. Hey, as I said, you know, I was very flattered to be asked to come and speak to this. I think it's a really important topic, and obviously for the FBAA, obviously acknowledge the importance of it, and I guess for you here listening, watching, you know, for each and every one of you, acknowledge it as well. So hey, it's great to see that, and you know, when the invitation came through, I sort of stopped and I sort of caught my breath, or sorry, yeah, took my breath away for a moment first, and I thought, oh crikey, this is pretty serious. How do I connect? What do I do in this? And then I stopped and thought about, I guess, you know, my experiences. You know, first and foremost, I'm a man, in case you didn't notice. You know, as a 46-year-old, soon to be 47, you know, that's a lot of years experience in there. So, you know, I guess, you know, I stand here or sit here to provide this presentation to you, you know, first and foremost as a man. You know, I was born as a son and a grandson, then on to become, when my sister was born, I became a brother. You know, I've spent my life in friendship, and I've been, you know, I'd like to think I've been a great friend to many, you know, to date and through the course of my life. You know, I've been a boyfriend first, and then a husband, and then became a son-in-law. You know, I'm very proud to say I became a father 3 times, and you know, and through that and through my family, I've become an uncle as well. And I guess through that, there's a picture. There we go. We can see. I'm still got a colourful face for whoever made that comment. So as you can see, you know, I guess we all go through life and we take on these experiences, and as Alex said before, some good, some bad, and I think we're all in that camp. But that's what life is about, learning these things. And I guess what I'm going to share with you today is, I guess, my experiences, how I've reacted with those, and I guess what I continue to do in the community. But most importantly, as I mentioned, all those stages that I've gone through my life, what's really important is that always, all the time, we need to acknowledge that everybody is watching. Everybody's watching, whether we think they are or not, and that we're all mentors, we're all role models, for better or for worse, for good or for bad. We're all influencing at each one of those stages, because there's other sons, nephews, friends, children, and strangers in the community that are looking at how we conduct ourselves, how we act, what we accept, and most importantly, which gets a lot of news now, is how we react to things. And probably as we go through this, I'm going to reference that a lot, and I like to think about maybe just take a moment to see how you react, because there's always someone watching. And often when that someone's watching, they don't have the context around how else you behave in the other areas of your life. And it's a really, really important thing. Okay, I had a great, thanks for the intro there, Mark. But for those of you that haven't, I have had the great fortune of presenting for the FBAA in the past, more around business. But those of you that haven't seen me, I'm a business growth expert. What does that really mean? I've spent my life in business. I grew up in family business. I had my parents' business fail as a 9-year-old boy, and I got to see all the worst side of what happens in business when there's business stress, when you're in a small business and your parents have got, they're under immense financial pressure. I know, basically all the brokers on here are operating as small business owners, by and large. And you'll be well aware of the pressures that come, and that comes back to the family unit, and that's the environment I grew up in. And of course, as my parents' business failed, so did the family unit. Just exploded at that point in time, and completely changed the trajectory of all of our lives. And for me personally, it sent me off on a trajectory to go and earn as much income as I could. As a 10-year-old, I would come home from school, and mum really suffered financially. Couldn't afford to pay the power bills, couldn't keep the phone on. We lived, we kept changing the house we lived in all the time. We'd go from lower cost rental to lower cost rental to lower cost rental, sometimes changing 3 times in a year, often changing schools, and going to a very low socioeconomic environment from what we'd had previously, where we'd had parents owning a business and certainly middle class, or certainly upper middle class. So it was quite a great change that I could see before my eyes. So it set me off to work very early as a 10-year-old to help contribute. And in that time, I've built, founded, invested in over 40 companies. I currently own a portfolio of 15 companies across Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, combined annual revenues of more than $100 million. I was politely asked to leave school at the age of 15. And 1 year later, at the age of 16, I bought my first investment property in 1991. For $59,000 at a 16.5% interest rate. I say those numbers knowing the audience here that you might be interested in that. So so that was the interest rate in 1991. I started my first business 27 years ago in 1994. I've authored 2 books, Better Business, Better Life, and also one called Business Secrets, What Successful Business Owners Aren't Telling You. And I also host a Better Business podcast, which is produced by Navagate Biz, which is a real passion project for me to help business owners, much like you, FBAA members there, where it's a place to go, it's a place of sanctum where you can feel safe and you can get resources, you can get information and experience to help, because I don't want people to suffer just as my mum and dad did. So, hey, from that, I've grown up, obviously, to become a husband and a father of 3. I've got a young son who's about to turn 13, and I've got twin daughters that are 11. I was very fortunate that by the age of 14, I was able to really decide whatever else. By the age of 40, I was got to a very fortunate point in my life, and was able to really look outward beyond the family unit and out into the community, and how I could dedicate my time. And I was really lucky enough to meet someone who I would class as a good friend of mine now, who's the founder of the Men of Business Academy here on the Gold Coast, and is a man by the name of Renee. And maybe some of you heard of the Men of Business Academy, but you know what that is it's an academy for at-risk youth. Specifically looks at takes in year 11 and year 12 boys. It prepares them for the workplace, and it assists them to get their year 12 certificate, whereby in the high school that they were at previously, either they can't return for all of the reasons that are probably, I'm sure you'd be aware, or they're just not functioning well at that high school. So so it's a great place. I spend my Fridays there, and you know, it's an outlet for me. You'll see a picture there with me and Marco there, myself on the left as you look at it there, and Marco on the right. You wouldn't believe we're actually about the same age. He's got all the hair, I haven't, but you can see what we do there is we have about 150 at-risk youth, boys only. It's a boys academy, and we spend time, I guess, you know, as men, talking to these young men and really defining what it is to be a man in you know, in 2021. You know, how we can you know, how we act, how we fit into the community, and you know, I suppose that we're defined by our actions, and how, you know, how should we conduct ourselves. A lot of these young men, of course, haven't had the role models. Maybe they've never met their father. You know, maybe their father's perhaps in prison, as it is for a lot of them. A lot of these boys also are living rough when they first enter the Mena Business Academy. You know, it gives me great joy to go and spend time down at this place, given that you know, my childhood, particularly in my teen years, how I grew up, and you know, I guess sharing my story. It's really important with these young men, not just to give them you know, define the actions at which you know, makes us better men. As you'll see in the background there, the Men of Business Academy, it is an academy that's supported by the business community at large. Business owners just like myself contribute to this and help to pay for the, you know, the teachers and the overhead and the school itself, and all the tools and resources are required. But really the goal of it is to build better men. These at-risk youth are at a really crucial part in their lives, where they've not had that mentorship, they've not had that leadership that is of a positive nature. And so as they come in there, part of building better men is that, you know, they get breakfast first in the morning when they arrive. You know, it's normal school hours, like a normal high school would be. They come in, they get fed. They normally will do some kind of physical exercise. It'll be a gym session, it'll be a run around the block, it'll be a game of touch rugby in the park, whatever it is. And then they go through their lessons as they go through the day. There's some music thrown in there. There's, you know, some gaming thrown in there. So, you know, there's some fun had for these guys to keep the attention as well. But actually the ultimate goal is to get these guys prepared for work. We go through getting them blue cards. We get them their driver's license. We go through all of these things. And what most importantly, we really care about them. We share our experiences that we've had, and we listen to the experiences that they've had growing up. And we do our very best to, you know, try and provide, you know, a great mentorship to these kids. Of course, we push them because that's an important part of being a man. We've got to be questioned, we've got to be pushed. But at the same time, we guide them, and I can honestly say that we love them. I had the great pleasure on Wednesday going to our year 12 graduation. We had 60 year 12s graduate the year 12 certificate. Which is amazing. You know, it was, you know, as I say, going there is one of the great pleasures of my life, where these boys had no school to go to any longer. They were not wanted by the school that they were at, and you know, it's highly unlikely, as you can imagine, that they would have achieved the year 12. And to put 60 young men, year 12s, out in the community that have achieved the year 12 certificate, they're work ready. In fact, I would say, you know, somewhere around a third of them were already placed in work at the finish of their year 12. So, you know, we've got a group of people there that really care for these people, and I suppose that this is part of the reason when I really thought about coming and doing this speaking is that you know, knowing the environment that I grew up in, you know, a lot of pressure at home, small business owners, you know, a lot of alcohol fueled It was an alcohol-fueled environment, very dysfunctional environment, and then, of course, growing up to a solo mum as a teenage boy, I really identify with this work that I sort of dedicate to now, and I think it's really important to share with everybody else that there is a large part of the community that are all growing into the men that really, I guess, this day is all about, and how do we try and shape that? How do we adjust that? And I think we've all got, men and women alike, but particularly men, I think we've got, a real responsibility, to show other men how do we live, and that's not necessarily going out and pinpointing individuals and spending a whole lot of time with them, but just how we conduct ourselves in public, and so. Just talking about some of the challenges facing young men, and I'm going to hone in on that because I think that young men become older men, and obviously the earlier we get in, the better that we can, I guess, sort of try and correct some of the issues that are at the core of some of the things that happen out there in our community. But some of the challenges facing that, and because we're in. For people my age or approaching my age or somewhere near that, it's a very different world out there, and I think for us, our context is how we grew up, and the challenges we faced, and as each decade passes, things do change, and certainly no more truer is that now, where things are at an extremely rapid pace, and what we see out there. I suppose when I was growing up, role models were quite consistent. Particularly. My age group would often look to sporting heroes as a role model, but for young men today, there's a lot of inconsistency in the way models behave, and I see with young men, there's when they're looking around, there's a lot of confusion, it's probably tough for them to decide what is right and wrong, because there's so many different types of role models out there, good and bad. When I say role models, that doesn't necessarily mean a good role model, but there is so many different types out there, and these people are teaching and people, these young men how to behave. We're in a world now where all they're seeing is abundance all the time. When I was growing up, seeing abundance was a rarity. Seeing a headline about wealth, certainly obviously wasn't social media posts when I was growing up, but even seeing a magazine about wealth, these things were a rarity. Wealth was not spoken about a lot, and certainly abundance didn't seem a lot about. It was about trying to save. It was about trying to get by. Certainly not about abundance. And no matter what demographic in the community that you're attached to right now, abundance is in front of everybody's eyeballs all the time, and what that does, it gets these young men lacking patience. And to me, I feel like patience is one of the greatest skills that you can have as you go through your life. And I think when we start to acknowledge some of these things, when we start to acknowledge some of these differences, is when we start to have, I guess, to start to construct or create some of the answers. I guess none of us individually, have the, as Alex said before, like we don't have all the answers there, and Alex rightly said that, and I don't think any individual probably on here today or anywhere would pretend to have all the answers. But what we can do is we can acknowledge what some of the challenges are that these young men go through, and it's different to ours. These role models, they're on all of their screens all the time. And a lot of the behaviors are questionable, and they're questionable in a different sense, in a different way than we were exposed to as a 10, 12, 14, 16-year-old. These things, this is very real. They get the exposure to that, and you can't, as a father of a near 13-year-old son, you cannot take that exposure away. But what's important is that they can, when they see these things, that they can identify with what is right and what is wrong. If they don't have that context, then it's left to them to work that out as they go through their life. There's pressure to look a certain way. There's certainly, a lot of body pressures. I know from the female community has had to deal with this probably for, since the dawn of time, I guess, almost. But for males, it's quite a new thing. That we've, got to look a certain way, or there's the pressure to look a certain way now, and that certainly is what I see 10, 12, 14, 16-year-old boys certainly face that pressure the same way that women have done throughout the community for many years. And whilst we sit here as a father or a grandfather and say, well, we didn't have that, we've got to acknowledge that our sons and our grandchildren do have that issue now. And some of that's great. Some of lifestyle choices are really important. The exercise choices that we make, the food choices that we make are super important. But it's also important to acknowledge that we are born with certain DNA factors. We're born with certain body shapes, and it's just not possible for us to all be in exactly a cookie cutter mold like the latest post on Instagram is, or TikTok. New world role models that have it all and seemingly for doing nothing, which changes the work ethic. It changes the thought process. And again, as a man, it's very important to incorporate that work ethic into what we do each day. I've talked about patience. I'm also talking about work ethic, and I'm talking about discipline. And these things don't often get shown when we look at the posts and the information, the movies, all this that the people are seeing is they're seeing these role models that have it all, and they don't see the work that's gone into maybe acquiring that. That bit doesn't look very interesting, and so therefore it doesn't get posted. And you'll see, if you've seen any of our Navagate Biz information, we talk about the work ethic. We talk about what's required. Hey, success is great. It's great to have great big goals. In fact, I would say it's super important to have great big goals, but it's important to understand what is required, the building blocks to go and get all those things. And often our young men don't see these things, and it's important that we can expose them to the 1 + 1 = 2, the work and the discipline that equals all these great things that we can have in life. The fast pace of change the parents are trying to keep up with, and it's very difficult as a parent of 3 young kids all approaching teenagerhood. The fast pace, there is a lot of effort, back on as parents, as grandparents, whatever, or as an auntie or an uncle on here, whatever you are on here. I would really encourage you to think about the pace of change, and what that actually means to these kids. And I'll talk about this in a couple of points time as well. But also the other thing is differentiating between reality and fiction is difficult for young men now. Young men particularly spend a lot of time in video games. That's the way that they communicate. It's different for us to work out, because we used to go down and meet down at the park or down at the shops, and now these young men are meeting in these gaming worlds online with these headphones. I guess in some way similar to what we're doing now with this webinar meeting. But they're meeting in these virtual worlds, and it's becoming, and also watching the movies that have so much computer CGI, computer graphic imagery, whatever. Someone help me. Someone technical is whatever CGI means. But all these made-up worlds, and both the movies that look super realistic, and obviously these made-up worlds and these video games where they're meeting. The important piece here is where they're meeting with their friends. They're playing on these platforms where someone's at one's house, someone's at another's house. They're talking to each other. They jump into their skin, whoever their character is that they are, and they're watching themselves interact with their friends. And it's really becoming difficult for them to differentiate, more and more difficult for them to differentiate between reality and fiction. This is real stuff. And, again, as a parent, as a grandparent, as an auntie, as an uncle, it's important to acknowledge that this is real life. This is real life for these kids today. And parents, parents like myself who want their children to grow up and live like we did in 1985. 1985, I was 10 years old, and I kind of remember 1985 very well. I was a kid of the 80s, and but it is it's really important for me to acknowledge that it is pointless, and in fact I would say only creates more friction by me treating my son like I would be treating myself, or my father treated me in 1985. It really serves no purpose, because it really does create more friction. What we want to do is think about what are the values that we had when we were growing up that we think are important, and how do we incorporate those values in actions and discussion and the framework of 2021. And that's whilst that sounds simple, it is quite difficult to try and work into your lifestyle. But what I would say to you, if you can just take a moment to think about that, actually don't think about, oh, just go down and run down the park and go outside and come back in when the sun goes down, or go down the road and find some friends and go and make friends with someone. Like, that kind of conversation is so foreign to young people today. And so I'd really think about, why do you want them to go and play outside? Why do you want them to go and talk to some friends? Think about what those core values are. And also what I would say is, these kids, that they are so much more advanced in the way that they're thinking and what they can absorb, and the language that they can absorb, that it's really important to sit down and have that discussion. Is, hey, look, I want you to, it's really important as we go through life to develop these communication skills, and that you can go and meet some new people. What's a great platform that you can go and do that? And you can talk about this with other parents, you can talk about this with teachers, you can talk about this with kids, you can talk about this with your kids' friends, so that you can sort of incorporate where you want them to go, the skills that you want them to have, but in today's framework. Don't try and take them back to 1985. There's a lot of pressures to live up to, false or incompatible expectations. And that, again, it sort of ties in with a couple of the other points we had there, but that's very real. And I think that it's great, dinner time conversation. And with that said, is that I think it's really, like, around our house, we use, I would say at least 4 to 5 nights out of 7, we sit down at the dinner table. No one leaves the dinner table till the last person's finished their meal. And, that takes a lot of effort, but what that does is it creates an environment where we've got that maybe 30 to 60 minutes, probably really it would be 60, but certainly 30 to 45 minutes typically, where we can actually sit down and have a conversation about some of these things. What are these pressures? As a family of 5, we can sit down and we can discuss some of these things that one child might be going through, and we have these open discussions. And I think it's really important that if you do get some quiet time with any other young person, particularly young men, that you can bring up some of these things that you faced when you were growing up and talk about that. You can see there is a picture with some of the mob boys there, the Mena Business Academy boys, when I was down there recently. And I learn as much from these kids as and in fact I would say more. I learn more from them than they learn from me. So what? Oh, let me, sorry, I just lost my. So there's a lot of confusion out there. Sorry, let me get back to. Lost my spot there. Going back, as I said, I learn a heck of a lot from these guys versus possibly what they learn from me. I'm just there to give them some experience. But what it does is gives me awareness of the pressures, and that the pressures are very different, as I spoke to before. And it gives me the ability to go and look out for what the signs of these pressures that are under. And some of them that are at a very basic level, some of them that they can't see their parents because they're in jail. Some of them is they haven't got a home to go to. Some of them is they can't eat. Obviously that's one area of the community, but the pressures are different. They're absolutely different. But we are in a better world today because we acknowledge it. Even having a day like today, International Men's Day, men leading by example. This great thing that FBAA has put on here. Acknowledging that is something that certainly wasn't around when we grew up. The pressures are different. We need to acknowledge that. When these young people today aren't just getting told to, hey, grow up, go and get your doctor's degree, your lawyer's degree, and that's the pressure. There's other pressures, that different pressures. We need to acknowledge that. But overall, there's far more outlets for people to be heard, for people to be looked after, for people to be cared for and loved than there ever was that I remember growing up. And so, we do need to keep some context is that where is humanity going? It certainly is better in 2021 than it was in 1985 for people that are in need, for people that need help. You know, there's people to go to. You know, there's so much more outlets for these people to go to. So it's important to keep that context. Why positive male role models matter. Let me just, crikey. I had to add this slide in here. There's a picture there of myself. You know, I love this picture. That's my son in the foreground there, and my father in the background. So you know, three generations out there having fun and having a smile. So I had to add this, and I think it's really important because we do try and get out together. You know, I'm lucky enough, my father's still alive, and we've got, you know, we've got a great relationship today. And you know, it's really, you know, I think it's important that you know, my son can see how I interact with my father, you know, how I respect my father, how, you know, having a grandson gives my father great joy, and that he feels, you know, that he's super loved by all the men in his life, and going out together gives us that chance to have that open communication. And you know, I would say that, you know, if you've got friends that have a young man, you know, going through that difficult time in life, that's 11, 12, 13 years old, it's great to give them a bit of experience. See if you can take them out, go and do something, go and have a, you know, game of tennis or a game of golf or something else, or just go and take them down for a coffee, or make them feel that there is, you know, there's other people out there that that really care about them, because it's important, you know, for men to have their tribe, to know who their tribe is, and who's out there, who's in their corner, who's looking out for them. You know, that open communication gives us the opportunity to break down the traditional stereotypes of not showing any emotion and just sucking it up when things are tough. You know, sometimes things need to be talked about. Sometimes things need to be worked through. And for young men, for all men, but particularly to learn that at a younger age is really important, that if you're feeling stuck, you don't just have to suck it up. It's okay, you know, getting people to go and talk to other people around. And again, the importance of the tribe. Who is the tribe? Who supports me? Who's in my corner? Who could I go and speak to, or who is looking out for me? This is a really important bit. Who's looking out for me and going, tapping me on the shoulder? Are you that person? Are you the person that's tapping the person on the shoulder and just saying, you know, hey, is things all right? Hey, let's go and have a chat. Let's go down and have a coffee. Let's go and go for a walk, go for a run, go to the gym, go whatever it is that's appropriate for the relationship that you've got. But are you instigating the conversation? Not just waiting for that person to speak up and say that there's something's wrong. Having that open communication gives young men a support system to communicate those challenges. As I say, this is super important. The support system, the tribe. You know, it's what we miss from, you know, I guess, you know, the world that we live in now versus going back, you know, many generations and decades, where we sort of had more of a community that was more closer knit. Like everybody knew everyone. We all knew the neighbours. Everyone was looking out for each other. You know, maybe grandparents lived in the same house. There was, you know, the tribe now gets small. It's just the very basic core family unit, and you only see everyone else every once in a while. And I'd say it's really important for you as an adult to set the tone, to make sure that you are connecting these young men with the tribe. Who is the system? Who else is out there that really cares for them? Making sure, you know, communication is really about making sure having positive role models creates safety and security and enhances self-belief and confidence. You know yourself, how you feel when you've got people in your corner. You feel like not just having the communication, but actually the satisfaction of knowing that, hey, there's people out there that care about me. And, you know, and it's the same for each and every one of us on the planet. When we know we've got those people around us, we feel a bit safer. We feel like we've got a bit more security, and it certainly increases our self-belief and our confidence. And certainly confidence is, for young men growing up, is really important. Hey, we all can think of examples of overconfidence. You know, we've all been teenage boys, but you know, getting some level of confidence is important, and it's really easy for young men to lose all of that. Consistent face-to-face communication allows boys to enhance their verbal and non-verbal communication skills. just coming and hanging out with real people at different age levels and in different situations, different genders, different backgrounds, different religions. How do you react when there's something different going on? Do you walk by? Do you have a little giggle, or actually, is everything not acknowledged as per normal? Do you make some extra special acknowledgement? But whatever it is that you do is getting extrapolated out by those young sets of eyes. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that in this day where we've got to obviously encourage this diversity and all walks of life, and making sure that we're really setting the tone. Positive role models provides new perspective outside their social bubble. Especially young men tend to spend a lot of time with their friends, and which is great. It's great for them to have friends and develop those communication sets, but also it's important for them to see other perspectives outside of that, not just seeing that one set of traits or rules or expectations. Opens opportunities for work placement, learning and growth. I know certainly down at the Mena Business Academy, we try and get as many of those boys into work positions with people that I know and in businesses that I own. And certainly for my son, I try and get him out working with his uncle, with his grandfather, and different things, and just trying to get different things. That's really important to get out there. And because I go back to it, what is important for men through life, and work ethic is something that is super important. So a boy needs a dad, and again, this is really important. We all lead busy lives, and it's important that we're present in those lives. And so a boy absolutely needs a dad, whether that's a biological father, whether that's a father figure, or whether that's a male role model. For me, it was really important. And I was very fortunate when I went out to work as a young man. I always had 2 or 3 after school jobs as a 10, 11, 12-year-old. And the owners of those small businesses were role models for me. At times they were father figures for me, and they certainly taught me a lot. And that's, if you're there as a business owner, that's something that is a great gift to be able to do that, to get young men into your business, young people into your business, and show them what your version of ethics are, what your version of morals are. Having a father figure in their life, I guess some of the really important stuff is making sure that they're loved and cared for, and that's from a male, that it's okay. You don't just have to go to mum for, if you're not feeling well. It's as a man, it's really important that we can show that humility and that caring side. It's also important for that we, as a father or a father figure, that we can teach the boys how to build strength, and build strength physically, but strength of character. Build strength of character, and that they can observe all these emotions, which is, and all the interactions. How does my father figure, and these things happen subconsciously. How does my father figure interact with other women? How does my father figure interact as a husband to his wife? How does my father figure interact with me as his son? How does my father figure interact with his mother, which is the boy's grandmother, or his father? How does my father figure interact with girls or their daughters? All of these things set the tone, and it's not one off. And that's why I say a boy needs a dad and needs that constant in there, because it's actually the repetitive actions that as humans where we start to absorb this information fully. It's not one off. It's not just going, oh, I've opened the door here to let someone through, regardless of whether that's a man or a woman, because it's the polite thing to do, and then you mention it, and then that's it, and then they don't see anything else. It's the constant. Oh, I noticed Dad always opens the door for other people. He's always the last one to go and serve. I talk about these things, but every one of us has some different little idiosyncrasies that we think are important to us. But it's important that we're constantly doing that in front of these young men. How to balance family, business, and life. I'm sure this is important for many of you on here, as it is for me and has been throughout my life journey in business and as a business owner. You know, for me, anyone that knows me, anyone that's come into contact with me for any short period of time or know me throughout my lifetime knows that you know, my family, you know, I'm a family first guy. I don't say that lightly. I don't just say that. That is my actions. My family is my #1 priority, and that's known to that. My family know that. It's not a secret. It's not a well-kept secret. It's not just something that I write down to myself or I say to myself or others. My family know that, and that's a distinction to make there, really important. It's important also to not let your family become an excuse when you're in business, which is very easy to do. Oh, I would love to go and do that, but I can't because I've got this family event on. You know, the worst thing that a wife or children can hear is you talking in that kind of language. And the problem is when you say that in one environment, you're often likely to repeat it in another environment. So don't use your family as an excuse for you not to be able to achieve what it is that you will need to do in your life. When we talk about family first, or when I talk about family first, my family know that when they need something, they can absolutely count on me. But they also know that there's a priority system. You know, if my daughter stubs her toe and she's crying and mum's at home and everything's under control, I am not coming running from whatever meeting it is that I'm in. So there's a priority system. However, if I got a call from school and something had happened and I was the one to get there, they also know that no matter what was going on planet Earth, that I would be there. And so they understand, as you know, particularly as they get older, that there's a priority system, that family's first to dad, but also, hey, work is important. And you know, so the family first needs to be getting up there in the what I call a traffic light system. You know, is this a red emergency here? Is this kind of, hey, it'd be useful to have you around, or hey, am I just being a lazy bugger? So, you know, and this is great too for them because they get to understand what priorities are in their life. Hey, plan your day to make sure. I talk about with the real day planner, plan your day, not just the meetings you got through the day, but plan everything that's going on in your life. Hey, I talk about day planners because I'm a physical day planner type person. Of course, I have Outlook, and I'm sure most of you are probably much more technologically advanced than I am and use your Outlook and digital calendars. But make sure that you've got the stuff mapped out, because if you really truly want to be family first, you need to map it out, how you're fitting everything in. Structure your time based on your goals. What are your goals? You know, every morning that I sit down and write my goals. You know, I've got a physical health goal, that's #1. Then, you know, a loving, respecting husband, #2, and then I've got 3 happy, healthy, and intelligent children as #3. I've many, many more that I sit down and write every day. But it's important that you keep reminding yourself what these goals are. What are these goals? Make sure you're structuring your time around what's really important. Because if you want to be a great role model, a great husband, a great father, you need to structure your time around those goals. If you're not doing that, they're not really goals. They're more like wishes. I wish I could be. I am going to do. 2 completely different context sentences, right? Make certain sacrifices. Make your sacrifices, whether that be in business or in family. Hey, family, you know, this is what I'm going to do. You know, for the next couple of months, you're not going to see a lot of me. I've got a lot of really important stuff on. That doesn't mean you're not important, but your future self is why I'm doing this. I need to go and get this period of time. I need to knuckle down and get the momentum going on so that we as a family can have a whole lot of freedom later. Make the sacrifices now so that you can spend the time with them later. And this is a really tough one for particularly new parents to get a grasp around. because I just want to see this and I just want to see that. I've got to do that. Yeah, but don't you want to provide this later? See, if you do all those things now, how are you going to be a great parent later? So make the sacrifices, but communicate why you're doing it. This is what I'm going to do. Do we all agree? Does this make sense? If we get to this point, does it make sense to everybody in this household that I make the sacrifice now? Because if it doesn't, I won't. Communicate.
And sorry to interrupt there, mate. We're just running out a little bit of time. We really want to obviously keep the conversation going here. Are we able to just get through a couple of the next slides at all? Sorry, mate.
I think we're done. I think we're just about done here.
Oh,
So
well,
I think
sorry,
it's perfect timing.
Excellent. Great mind.
I felt like I was getting the old hook off the stage, but no, that's.
I'll get the violin going and get the music going.
No, I think we did have a time there. I was aware of. So hey,
thanks, mate.
Okay, so we'll wrap this up there. Hey, hopefully this has been valuable for you. Hopefully this is insightful, because I know we often use the context of what it is like when we grew up, and it's a different world there. Hey, when you are spending time with your children, be present with them. Have open conversations. Maybe dinner tables not possible for you all the time. Maybe you fly in, fly out. Maybe whatever it is going on in your life. But make sure you're having regular open conversations. Sit down with your family, kids, wife, sit down with them and write your goals together. Write your goals together so that you're all working to this stuff together. It's really important that that you're all part of the same team. That's a picture there with my business partner, is myself on the, I guess, on your left, my business partner on the right, one of our business PSSS, and that's mob boy Ethan from the Mena Business Academy, just started in the store down there. And I can tell you, one of the best things in life that we can do is to serve others. We're all searching for the meaning of life, and I often ask myself, hey, why are we here? What are we doing all this? And I always revert back to, I'm never more happier than if I'm making other people happy. If you can do something that makes other people feel happy, it's the greatest feeling that we can have. And I think if a few more of us could carry that around each day, I know that we would. I know we would all be a lot better. There's just a quick story at the end here. Hey, I'm going to wrap this up. I know you got to go, but my team insisted I add this in here. And this is just an example of being a role model. My son, as a 9-year-old, came home. He was distraught. He'd had enough that he was the only kid in his class. I'm sure every parent on here will have heard this. He was the only kid in his class that didn't have an Xbox. And he wanted mum and dad to buy him an Xbox. How much is an Xbox? At the time, there was a new one coming out. It was about $1,200. And I said, hey, son, look, mum and dad are not going to buy you an Xbox, but if you go and buy your own one, I'm pretty sure we're going to be okay with it. But you got to go and work out how you're going to buy your own one. He was distraught. He was super upset. He was on the border of tears. Hey, Dad, I'm never going to be able to save $1,200. And the big lesson in here is that you've got to teach people how to find a way, and you've got to learn yourself how to find a way. There is always a way to make something happen. I said to my boy, hey, go and grab mum's phone, go and grab that, jump on eBay, jump on Gumtree. Let's find ourselves a secondhand Xbox. Oh, I didn't think about a secondhand one. So we found one on there for $250, and he went about getting jobs done at home, jobs done with friends and family, so that he could save up his $250 in notes and change. And he went out and bought his very own Xbox that he didn't have to rely on mum and dad. At 9 years old, I felt that was a really important lesson. My team loves the story, so they said I must put that in there. And so what it is, hey, you can do everything. You can do anything in life. You just got to have the will to do it, and you've got to have the outlook to look for those opportunities. And I think it's important for yourself first, and then to pass that on to those else in your life. Hey, that's that about wraps that up. Look, apologise if I've taken it over a bit longer there, but there we go. Have I stopped sharing? I don't know if I have. I think I might have. Is that stop sharing?
Yeah, you stop sharing now, mate. Thank you.
Great. Okay.
It's important, though,
so I'll hand it back to you there, Mark.
The value
Apologies
of money.
for going over to
The value of money at the end there, mate. All this tap and go stuff is certainly eroding the value of money at the moment, because it's just an endless pit of money, the old beeping and all that type of stuff. There's no kind of empty wallet syndrome going on at the moment.
No, you did right. And as I say, hey, work ethic is super important, discipline, having goals, because at the end of the day, if you don't have goals, you're not going to be able to incorporate discipline and work ethic into your life, because otherwise, what are you doing? And that's where we talk, such a common word today is burnout. Oh, I'm burnt out, because what are you working towards? And does it actually mean something to you?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nick.
Okay, I'll exit out here.
Cheers. Now, next up, and lastly for today, we've got a Q&A conversation with some of our speakers around challenges for men. So we've got Peter White, our Managing Director, who'll be the MC for this session, and we'll just get Renee, Alex, Nick, Philip to join us all again now. Everyone's up? There we go. I'll hand over to the panel and to you, Pete.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. All righty. Oh, good. We've got everybody there. A little quick change of shirt. And this one's for Nicolette, but Nicolette, she disappeared, but she was talking about drinking, so I thought it's an appropriate shirt to be.
Okay, I'm loving it. I'm here and I'm appreciating it. Yeah, but you know you can only have 2 standard drinks. Enough for me.
It depends how many days we're talking. This is a year's worth.
Oh, good-o. Okay, I like it.
Thank you. Very well done. Well done. All righty. Let's have a bit of a chat together about what the challenges are that are in front of men, and what some of the answers are. What are some of the solutions, if there are solutions? And I was reflecting in my mind the earlier conversation about White Ribbon Day. What is it, the things that cause violence in men? What is that journey? Why is that journey? We've seen in government of late, both here in Australia and around the world, of abuse towards women by men. And I've had women in our industry come to me about being abused by men in this industry. It's an absolute disgrace as far as I'm concerned. But these things are generally reflective of something. We know that during COVID, some of the conversations we've had with members or some of the things we've seen online seem rather aggressive to me. But what's causing that is, and Phil, you're probably really across this one as well, people are having a bad day. Something shit itself in their life that's really upset them, and you become the landing point of that particular outburst or that conversation. And so I thought it'd be really appropriate to have a chat around what are those challenges, what do they look like, and how do we get past it? And I've got some information here, and I want to shout out to Glenn Poole. He's the CEO of the Australian Men's Health Forum, and he plays a big part in men's health in Australia as well, but also on the international scale. And they've got some really good data that I've been using for today. I think it's important that we be reflective of that as well. And his data, the data that they're using at the moment, is saying during a man's lifetime, 1 in 2 men will have a mental health disorder. 1 in 3 men will have a substance abuse disorder. 1 in 5 men will have an anxiety disorder. I'm one of those. I tell you what, my anxieties of late have been off the dial. It's just ridiculous. And 1 in 8 men will have a mood disorder, depression, or the like. So there's obviously some challenges there that we can talk about data as much as we like, I get, but there's a real world practicality that goes on. And I'm just keen to hear from each of you what your thoughts are. And of course, I've asked Renee to stay on to be a part of this. We love Renee's conversation, and we want to have that balanced perspective in what we're talking about. Even though we're 4-1 here, that's not really balanced, is it? But we know you're strong enough to beat a lot of us. So your 1 counts for 8. Is that the maths work out there? Something like that. So, Phil, I might start with you, mate. Just some of your thoughts on what the challenges for men are, and I guess it probably plays back to why you're doing Keep 5 Alive and Saving Brothers and so on.
I think that that's a great question, something that we need to dive deeper into. And one of the biggest challenges, I think, is really actually making time for ourselves. We are all, and I don't just mean men, I say women as well, but today's focus is men, get stuck on the treadmill of life. And balance is a really difficult thing for us all to do. And with us at Saving Brothers, number 1 on our whole Keep 5 Alive program, is self-care. And I think sometimes we've really got to stop and take time out. And Nicolette actually talked about it earlier, which is have a bit of a break. Take some time for yourself. And I think really we really do. We're very reactive, particularly in the finance world, because there's always another deal. There's something going on with the bank, something happened with the Val, you're chasing something. And I think it's very, very, very important just to really understand that, acknowledge where you are and invest in yourself. I think it's so important. You become so much more productive. We also talked about the importance of the challenges of sleep. What we really don't understand is I used to hold it as a candle to think, oh, it was almost like a badge of honor. Oh, I can get by with, I get up at 4:30 a.m. But now what I do is I go to bed early. So we really need those minimum of 7 hours of sleep every night. And that is, for me, I think, one of the most significant and misunderstood challenges for men and for women.
That's a really important point. And I think I've said this before, but if I can get a picture of this ring I wear is just not cosmetic. That's full of sensors, right? And that is what they call Lori, and it measures my sleep activities. And you can see there last night, I got 7 hours and 46 minutes sleep, almost at an optimal level. I very much agree with you on that. And the sleep is, I think, one of the things that is really underrated in our lives that we need to keep a lot of focus on. And I know when I've not had a good night's sleep, I'm crap the next day. And I never really understood the measure. As I've gotten older, I just become a grumpy old man. You know? But it's very reflective of your sleep, but also your eating habits at night. We won't get onto that, but it's an interesting journey that winds up on. Alex, can I flick to you, mate? What's your thoughts on that? On this whole challenge that men have?
Yeah, listen, I think it's about being real and honest with ourselves to start off with. If we never believe it, we're never going to address it. And we've got some excellent tips today. I've certainly taken a lot out of today, listening and taking more time out to reflect. But something that Renee and I actually talked about this week was I was sharing just my views and thoughts on what a midlife crisis is, and typically men will have those. And I personally believe that they happen because we're not honest with ourselves, and that starts with what we need and what we want. And often this fight or flight mode can kick in around difficult situations. And fair to say we may not handle them the best, but the reason why a midlife crisis happens, in my opinion, is because we bottle up the things we need. We get married, we have a family, we don't get the balance. We think our role is to provide, and Nick talked about there was about seriously 300 points there I could go in and dive deep on, which was just tremendous. But around what roles we should be doing and having, and the priorities we should be making, not just goal setting, but even down to the words we use. But if we need, and this is what Renee and I talked about, we need a boys' day out playing golf or going to the pub, 2 drinks with some water, 2 drinks with some water. I got that note as well. That's what we need. If that's what we need, we need to make time for that. And the priorities very much lie with what we need as much as what people around us need, and not being the martyr or, sacrificing as men what we think providing for our family or loved ones or whatever it is, making ourselves a priority too. Yeah,
very good points. Nick, do you want to chime in on this one? Just unmute that one.
Yeah, there we go. I'm back here. Hey,
never going far, mate. Never going far.
Yeah. Look, I mean, it's difficult. Like, I mean, for men, I guess, we have an element of physicality about us, and it's something that's, probably doesn't get talked about much. And I guess it tries, because we have these awful things that happen in society. I've been part of it, growing up with it. I see it every day now. And, we don't want to see, I think, as you said there, Whitey, you said, women, with domestic violence with men and women, but we also have that with men and men, and whether that be men and men in a home situation, men and men in a pub situation, because you've got to remember men are men with partners as well as part of the situation. So it's actually not just about the woman and the man relationship. It's actually about what's going on with the man. And I think that, you know, it's really important that we have our outlets in this lot. Like, we cannot de-masculinize the man. We need to make sure that we've got the outlets that are doing this. You know, there's got to be those physical outlets within a man's life. And I think it's something that doesn't get talked about a lot. It might be not a popular topic, but it's certainly, you know, it's just an innate trait. Like, you need to make sure that there is the man time to go and do those things, because I think someone mentioned it before, when that gets bottled up, it's gonna reappear somewhere.
Yeah.
It's going to reappear after someone hasn't listened to, I must only have 2 drinks, or it's going to reappear when there's a financial stress going on. When there's any element of stress, it's going the animal, the beast in there is going to reappear, and that's not what anyone wants. Whether you're a woman, whether you're another man, whether you're a son or a daughter, a mum, whatever you are, it's actually not about the person on the other end. It's about how do we make sure that we're addressing the issues with the person.
Yeah, very valid, very true. Renee, best last, although we're not finished by a long shot, but Renee, what are your thoughts on this? From a woman's perspective, what are your thoughts about how men try and tackle this issue?
It's really interesting. I really enjoyed your perspectives on this. And Nick, I was listening to a variety of different talks and reading some different research to kind of prepare for today. And one of the conversations that I tuned into was totally about exactly what you just talked about with that masculine energy, and how if it's not, because our society has changed so much, we don't have that space where men are able to feel that sense of triumph and victory and have that goal set in such a physical environment as what was everyday life. And that's why the sort of ultra marathons and the marathon running and those type of events have started to see such a popularity, is because that's one way that men can actually get that sense of feeling, and that's a way to express that energy. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is that my partner actually did a 50k ultra marathon run not long after we met, and at the time I thought it wasn't a great idea because he wasn't doing what looked to me like a really structured preparation routine. I had no understanding of what that was going to give him in terms of a sense of achievement and a feeling within him of manhood, or, you know, whatever words you put around it. And it was 2 years ago, and he actually suffered a really bad back injury through the course of last year, which we were able to tie back to that. And I have been quite negative about him doing that experience. And in preparing for today, what I realized was for him, that was really important. He did that. And so we had a conversation about that. For me, where I really wanted him to hear that I understood what he was trying to do in achieving that. And we actually had a very different conversation about what he got out of doing that event and how important it was to him. And the other part to that conversation was that if there's not the opportunity to participate in things like that, that energy gets expressed as the shadow self, as the dark side, as those negative behaviors. And all I would say, because it's not obviously my sort of space to kind of give advice, but I would encourage anyone listening to this that if you don't have that outlet, to find it, and to also sort of tap into why you're going about it, and to communicate that with your family so that there's support for you to be able to do that. To Nick's point around your priorities and communicating, and people understanding where your priorities are. You're not doing this at the expense of, you're doing this for the greater family benefit and what you're actually going to bring back to the family. So that's my perspective.
And your thoughts are very valid. That's why you're here. But it's interesting as we go around, and sorry, I'm grabbing technology for a good reason, not that I'm looking at my phone for other stuff, but I think the points that have come up regularly are around scheduling time and doing things that are, I guess, important to self to help fulfill whatever it is within you. Now, and I know for me, when I was younger, I used to do a lot of this sort of activity. And as I got older, and my anxieties, I were having great difficulty controlling, which then leads to your moods and aggressive outlets and conversations and so on. Not that I'm really aggressive. When I was younger, I was very aggressive. In my 20s and 30s, I started to learn martial arts, then wound up teaching martial arts. So I wanted to beat the shit out of somebody who's really pissing me off at the time. Sorry for language. So I moved my anger into that sport activity and then wound up teaching it. But the thing I found as I got older is there's no way I'm as flexible or as in the same fitness level as what I used to be. But now there's something I used to do all the time. So I started on this. So these days I ride that, which is a Indian Challenger, 370 kilos worth of motorbike. She's heavy, but I get out on the open road and I schedule time just about every weekend without fail, unless the weather craps itself, so I'm not riding in the rain. Yeah, I get out on the bike just to find my time, my space to de-stress. And I can tell you now that the timing of me getting on the bike is when I'm feeling really bad. When I feel like everything is ready to explode in my head, I just get out, like it's a 10-minute exercise. You've got to pull the gear. So I won't ride without the full gear. So pull the gear, I get the helmet, I get the bike ready to go, so you lose temperatures. But you get out on the road, and for me, that's my time, my space. And it really helps to reset my head. And I'm really surprised at how profound the impact is of scheduling that time and finding that outlet. And I guess the next question I have to tell is, what are the outlets? I guess I found mine. Look at that. I love you. Look at that. We're in. So whilst I'm sharing that, there is an industry riders group that I'm establishing, which is a mental health journey. So prepare for that. It's going to be shortly. I've just finished doing all the marketing assets for it. We're about to launch. So we'll probably do it in the new year. But yes, an industry riders group's coming up for around Australia. Another session, but yes, motorbikes, love them. But what is the outlet? What do people use for their outlets? And same with you. I mean, Renee, from a woman's perspective, you obviously get really, obviously when your partner was doing this lengthy marathon, they're going, hey, you idiot, you should be doing this. Hey, look, you did your back in.
Exactly.
But from your perspective, I know it's misconception, but are there things that you do to try and find that moment, that opportunity, and what sort of things is it that you do?
Thanks, Pete. And what I find is activities that serve my soul are different to what used to be the things that I did to cope with life. And part of that is about understanding health and wellness. And you've heard some great sessions today that cover the different type of activity that brings you into a space where it calms you and serves your overall health and well-being. So the things that I love to do, I do love to run. Not a marathon or an ultra marathon, just a nice little 5K. I love to walk down the beach.
There's no such thing as a nice little 5K.
And yoga and Pilates are two of the things that I really, really love to do, and they serve me well. So what I look for is an activity that, whilst I might not feel like doing it, and similar to what you said about putting the gear on, I find that if I had a long day, if I can just put my exercise gear on, I'm there. Whereas if I don't take that first step and think I'm going to do it, I don't get there. So it improves my participation level easily, doubles it by just taking that bit of action when it's the last thing that you want to do.
Yeah, it's interesting because it is the last thing you want to do. And pushing yourself to go there is, to me, is I won't say the biggest battle, but once I do that, I'm good. I get there. But if I don't, I'm screwed. I go push myself through. Philip, have you got any thoughts on that, or things that you do, or how you deal with that?
I'm loving hearing this discussion. I was a marathoner in my 30s. I love to do exercise. I do yoga. I do meditation. So I've been doing transcendental meditation, or TM, for 30 years. So that really does help me. I'm become really, really conscious, Pete, about this issue of sleep. I've got obstructive sleep apnea, and I'm learning so much. One of the things at Saving Brothers, we've got coaches and mentors. So we're really getting into the whole area of microbiome, gut health, and the importance of sleep. And in fact, we're about to release a wellness app for men around those things to help them become accountable to themselves and to their brothers. So I think just having those regular things, and I talked about it as the #1 on the Keep 5 Alive, Pete, which was self-care. So what Renee's referring to is a really, really good things, whether it's going for the 5K run. By the way, Pete, did love your reaction of the, it's 5Ks. Well, I mean, you know, that's each to their own on that one.
I ride a bike, mate. I can do 100 easy.
Exactly, exactly. And I'd always enjoy watching you on Facebook with your riding. But I just think movement is so important. You don't have, I mean, that's why I talk about walking. I've got a Nordic track in my office here. I've got a Nordic track bike that I love and I ride all around the world because it's got a video screen. But that's just one of my things. But just walking is enough to just get the endorphins released.
Yeah, movement. I mean, I get it off the app for the Ring and the Apple Watch, so you get up off your ass and do something. Just move, do something.
Exactly, brother.
Alex, your thoughts, my friend?
Yeah, I think it's one of the challenges is we've got a lot of great strategies, and the challenge is just picking one or two, right? You got to be. It's like old-fashioned SMART goals. So often it can become very overwhelming, and what the risk is that we end up doing nothing. And we talked about that earlier, right?
Yeah.
Like, shit, where do I start? And I can tell you, I'm not a great sleeper, and I've heard for the last half hour how important sleep is, and it's something that is on my radar, but I function, and it's something that I know I need to address, but I'm not ready to address that yet. But there are other parts and aspects of my life that, you know, I'm taking bite-sized chunks. And I think what I loved about today is we've heard a lot of different tips and a lot of different strategies on how to improve our physical health, our emotional health, our psychological health, our business health. And if we pick one or two now, work on that, you know, we're going to edge our way to becoming a bit better, and being realistic with what am I aspiring to run, you know, 100Ks, 50Ks? No. I would ride that on my motorbike really easily. But I think at the end of the day, we know what good does look like. And some of these we set, you know, I love the concept of role modeling, right? Like, and this through generations. We're not going to change it today. Some of this is generational. And I, you know, an example I can give you is with my son. I've got 4 kids, 3 girls, 1 boy. And ever since he was like 2 years old, he was never allowed, I taught him he was never allowed to hit his sisters. And siblings, like they're little kids, they fight. You know, we had 4 kids in 6 years, so they grew up together, but he was never allowed to hit his sisters. And they played on that, cheeky little buggers. They played on that because they knew they could pinch him or punch him, and he wasn't allowed to hit back. And there was something I was trying to teach him fundamentally, that it's never okay for a boy to hit a girl. Now, fast forward, you know, years on, and my eldest is 16, my youngest is 10. I don't know that I set the right message for my girls. It's actually not okay to hit full stop, right? Like violence is not the answer. But I really wanted to drum it home, and I'm not sorry for this. I really wanted to drum it home for my son to say it's never okay. And it's about picking your battles, right? Like Renee and I, when we started talking about our survey, we were talking about men and women. But then one of the earlier versions was, do we include all the other genders, and what do you identify as? And I mean, women are already the minority in some of the challenges we talk about, and so are men. You know, there's even further minorities as we break it down. So I think if we can take one big step forward, you know, this month, this year, let's get real and set realistic goals, and we'll get better.
Excellent. Nick, what about you, my friend?
Back on again now. Hey, look, you've got to get really connected to what it is that you want in life. You know, I mean, we can all sit here and try and do a one size fits all, that you got to do 8 hours and run 5Ks and all that. But ultimately, you got to work out what it is that you want in your life. What is it that you like? We're all on the planet for 80, 90, 100 years if we're lucky, right? And that's a heck of a lot of time that you can do a lot in. What is it that you're going to do with your time? And hey, I don't mind having a big goal because I've got my whole life to do it. And I can then chunk that down to what does that mean that, okay, I'm not going to do 5K today. Maybe I'm going to do 1K today, 1.1 tomorrow, 1.2 the next, and so on and so on. I think that, but if you're not interested in running or you got bad knees, that probably sounds like a real bad plan. So I think that, hey, get yourself connected to some goals. Work out what the heck is it that you want to do in your lifetime, because don't waste it. As far as I heard, as much as I know, I don't think we get a second one. So go and do something with it. Work out what is the stuff that you want to do while you're here, and then start to map out your whatever your pathway is, whether that's a run, whether that's hopping on a bike, whether it's 8 hours sleep, whatever, but work it out for you, whether it's eating the right thing, whatever. But work out what are you going to do with your years that you got?
Yeah, I agree. It's very, very specific to the individual. I completely agree with you. Now, we're going to finish off shortly, so time is sort of running out a little bit on us, but you four, think about your little piece of gold you want to leave people with today. And I'm just going to read this out. This is, again, from our friend Glenn Poole, but 4 habits for mentally healthy men. So is a healthy body, eat well, exercise, reduce alcohol, a healthy lifestyle, take care of relationships, work life and social life, helpful mindset, be mindful, set goals, refrain unhelpful thoughts, and healthy connections. Talk with mates, know when and where to get help. I think there's some really good little snippets of gold in that as for healthy habits for mentally healthy men. Can't get the tongue around it. But I want to know what you guys think. What's your little snippet? What do you want to leave people with today? You want to go first? You want to go last? Your choice.
I'll go last.
You'll go last.
That's all right.
So I'm going to go to Alex, because I know Alex has got a piece of gold, but he's always got a piece of gold.
Oh, thanks, Ronnie. No pressure. No pressure. Geez, I want to go last as well.
You're up.
I think I will say, I think we need to be kind to ourselves. It's been a tough 2 years. We've been pulled through the ringer. A lot of us have, I think we just need to give ourselves a bit of a break, be honest with ourselves, and really be kind to ourselves right now.
Excellent. Yeah. Good words. You took mine. Thanks for that. No, excellent. Very good. Philip?
Well, Pete, I'm going to reiterate the importance of the Keep 5 alive. That's for women as well as men. If you just follow those 5 things, a lot of the things we've talked about today in the discussion will fall into place for you. And the other one, and I'm looking at you, Brother Alex, in particular, we don't understand, we underestimate the value of sleep. Everything else is linked to a good sleep. So when you sleep well, you own the night, you own the day. Sleep is linked to things like Alzheimer's, chronic heart disease, diabetes of all things. And I think we just don't realise the importance of sleep. So I'll leave it with you. And that's in our booklet, which is on your platform, Pete, where people can download. They'll talk to you all about the importance of sleep.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Brother Phil.
Sending love, man.
Over to you, Nick.
Hey, look, I would be, my big thing is be wary of the pitfalls of too much comfort. You know, we're all out there looking for a whole lot of comfort in our life, and we're looking for everything to be perfect, and we're just trying to find the right answer for perfection, and that doesn't exist. And what we actually really got to do is actually get used to being comfortable, being uncomfortable, because if you go back to any time in your life where you've built something that you've got a bit better, it was going through something uncomfortable. Oh, I didn't want to go to school that day, but I had to go. I didn't want to sit that exam, but I had to go. I didn't want to go to work that day, but I had to go. I didn't want to get that job, but I had to go. You go and you get through it. I didn't want to finish the 5K, but I did, and now I can do 7. You know, all of those things. So be wary of what's sitting behind comfort, because I tell you what, it ain't growth. You don't go to the gym to go and sit in the corner and be comfortable. Can I just leave? I want to leave you with on that note, because there was there's a quote at the end of my presentation which I cut off. I think it's really pertinent to what I've just said there, and it's a quote from a man called G. Michael Hopf, and I don't know if you heard of him or not, but the quote is, "Tough times create strong men. Strong men create easy times. Easy times create weak men, and weak men create tough times." And I think that just goes back to the comfort I was speaking about. There's nothing wrong with being a little bit uncomfortable sometimes.
Yeah, mate, I get it. But I agree wholeheartedly. I won't go on it. So I want to hear from Renee.
Sure, thank you. What I would say is you've chosen to attend today and surrounded yourself with some really positive role models and really helpful messages. And the thing I would say is take something from today that really resonates with you, because there's been a lot that's been covered, and do that surrounded by people that you trust. So to Nick's point about being uncomfortable, have people around you who are going to spot check you to make sure that you're on the right track, and being tough and things being a bit hard, a bit uncomfortable is the best thing for you. So have people around you that want the best for you is what I'd say.
Excellent. There you go. Everyone, some great words of wisdom there. And I'd like to thank everyone who joined us on this conversation. Renee, Alex, Phil, Nick, thank you all. Appreciate it. And I'm going to hand you back to our MC, Mark. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. And I'd just like to acknowledge Pete never missing an opportunity to get pictures of his bike out as well there. So congratulations, Peter. Now, that brings us to the end of our session today. So thank you so much for everyone attending. We really appreciate the support and be able to provide you with our International Men's Day event today. So look, thanks again to our confidential counselling program sponsor Suncorp and Assure, and the other content providers NextGen.net, Navagate Biz, Saving Brothers, and all of our other presenters for giving up their time to support and compile content to support the industry and you, no matter what you are going through. Don't forget to download the digital brochure for this IMD event from the FBAA website. It's under our webinars tab, and that will get the details for our confidential counselling program with Assure. And there's also the Saving Brothers, Your Health, Self and Wealth ebook that is free for members to download. You can access this recording via the FBAA YouTube channel. Now, I saw some comments about that this could be valuable for people's relatives, so please do have a look at the link, pardon me, the link post the session, and that will be available probably in the next week or so. Don't forget about our FBAA podcast series, and follow us at Apple Podcasts and Spotify now by searching the FBAA and hitting the follow us button, or via our website on the news page. And lastly, there will be a follow-up email coming out with a short survey to complete. If you could please take the time to complete this. It'll also have your CPD code for today's session with 2 CPDs allocated. Now, thanks again for tuning in today. And I'm getting in early to wish you a great rest of the year and a Christmas break that is quickly approaching. Thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you next time.